My great-grandfather used to tell a story from when he was a young man in early 40s Wyoming. His dad was an officer in the Army serving in the Pacific, and he was doing cattle wrangling, not uncommon for the youth of that time in Wyoming, for a family who owned a ranch a few hours away. Only 2 daughters were left with the older parents, as the sons had gone off to war. The father of the family was an upstanding member of the community in his early 50s. He was resting after having tried to track down some stray cattle. I believe that part of the story was fuzzy in my grandfather's mind. The detailed one was recorded on a tape somewhere back in the 80s when great-grandpa was still alive, with his horse on a corner of the property that bordered a large Native American reservation, when a rattlesnake apparently spooked it and it took off running back towards the corral, about 5 miles away, and over several steep hills. He didn't want to spend the night out in the elements waiting for a search party, so he decided to take what seemed to be the shortest route back to the ranch house, going down into the steep canyon nearby, and following the creek down into the valley. He clambered and slid down the steep canyon wall, before recalling that the father had given him and the other hired hands firm instructions to not enter this canyon, as it apparently had an aggressive bear, and he had set out traps all over for it, making it very hazardous. He was now sweating bullets, as it was getting dark, and constantly reaching for his handgun he had on him with every sound. He had made down to the mostly dry creek and started following it down, when he smelled a foul stench. As he continued on, it smelled like a rotting carcass, somewhere in the trees to one of his sides, and decreased the further he got from that point. Then he smelled it coming up again, this time fainter, then it would seem as if he had passed it, and then another one was stronger. As he got near the end of the canyon, he saw something hanging in the moonlight from one of the cottonwoods that was along the river. He got close to it, and the odor was bad, but not as strong as some of the others had been, and they were further away from him when he'd passed them. He apparently lit a match, a lighter, or something. Maybe the moonlight was good enough, and to his horror he saw a decomposed human body hanging from the tree. He took off running in terror, and in the wrong direction, back up the river. After a while, and stopping to get a grip on himself, he realized that he was close to another of the spots that had the strong smell. He knew that it was probably a body, but had to see. He apparently walked towards a nearby tree, expecting to find another body hanging, but instead tripped over, to his disgust, a bloated body on the ground. He apparently could tell that she hadn't been dead for very long, and still had some recognizable features. She was apparently naked, and had a large stick protruding out of her nether regions, looking like it had been pushed in far, far too deep, with the ground around looking like it had soaked in an extraordinary amount of blood. He took off running, back to the ranch house this time, to alert them about the murderers that had to have been on the loose nearby. It apparently wasn't until he was nearly at the house that he realized that it was probably the father of the family, as he had given such strict instructions to not go that way. Apparently great-grandpa lied to them about his route back. He had been specifically asked if he had come through the canyon, and decided to not tell his parents or anyone else. Some years later he told some friends in high school about it, and they decided to hike back to that spot to see if they could find any skeletons or bodies, and while they found some ominous signs, bundles of rope, and glass bottles around, appearing that someone had been drinking back there, they couldn't find any sign of murders. Unfortunately, people disappeared for all sorts of reasons on the reservation, and no one really cared back then, so nothing came of it. Great-grandpa didn't really talk about it for years, until he apparently felt like it was haunting him, and confided in grandpa about it. It's still a topic of conversation, and while great-grandpa died some years ago, we've still tried to find out as much as we could about that man who owned the ranch at the time, and wondered if we'd ever find skeletons if we went back and dug around. We have a good idea of where the trees would be. UK. Small game hunting out in West Country with my air rifle, Air Arms TX200 HC. Spend the day strolling through the great British countryside, slotting the occasional woody. Set up small camp in a clearing, start a fire, have some Heinz beans, some tea, usual Brit-bong stuff. Gun has a night sight set up, mainly for slotting rats on farms but good for a bit of nighttime nature watching. Might even see a deer, how fucking exciting. Finish up some rich tea biscuits, have a little scan in the woods with the night sight but nouts about. Generally quiet, but not super spoopy, no sound, there's still the rustling and insect noise. Suddenly in the distance I hear a thump. Is that a fucking drum? Staring into the darkness for a minute or two and I hear it again. Definitely a drum. Who the fuck is way out here banging a drum? Sling rifle, stuff pellet tin in pocket and make my way in the direction of the noise. 20 minutes of walking, correcting my direction and random drumming later, I find myself on the edge of a clearing, overlooking a natural valley. It's over Anakin, I have the high ground.png. Crouch down by the trees and let my eyes adjust. In the little valley is a big fire, around 7 people that look like Jedi cosplayers and 2 people wearing huge masks. And yes, a big drum. I respond in kind and tear some serious arse back towards my camp. Mind is racing with all the ways I'm going to murder the shit out of everyone at Domino's UK. I can see my camp. Push my body to its limit to put some distance between Obi-Wan and pals. Run past my camp, into the trees on the other side, throw myself into a little dugout. Rifle off shoulder, load around, flick on the night sight and wait. They stumble into the camp and start looking around, all of them holding big knives, in before get a life bend that knife. Fuck up my tent, pricks, start to spread out. 2 of them walking straight towards me. Put crosshairs right over what is roughly his crotch, reasoning that I might get a lucky hit on the ballsack and that'll have one less of them chasing me. Take up slack on trigger. Literally 20 yards away, heart is racing and I'm scared shitless. Suddenly one of the ones in the camp shouts that I'm gone, LOL, and basically, let's fuck off. Stay in that dugout until sunup. Drum going all night. Grab essentials from camp and half run half jog all the way back to the car. I swear to God everyone west of Reading is either fucking their sister or in a fucking cult. Be around 14 years old or so, 10 years ago. Friend's family has a lot of property in the middle of the woods. Go over there fairly often to goof off, ride quads, shoot .22 and BBS and stuff, be stupid kids. His house and yard is clear of all trees and stuff for a good 125 yards square. Then it's just surrounded by trees and a single driveway. Nearest neighbor's house is a 20-minute walk away. Friend's property has a few trails for walking and a few pretty wide trails for riding quads, but the rest is just woods with little to no trails carved out. That's where all the fun always is because trails are repetitive and wildwoods are more fun. Heading out from his house in one direction into the woods for about 15 minutes it comes to a clearing. Clearing is a field that is fairly large. It's all thistle, like you can't see the ground because the thistle all grows so close together. Never go past this part because it's spiky. But this day we decide to check it out. He has a .22 rifle and I have his .22 pistol just for goofing off with no intention of shooting anything. Late afternoon so sun will be setting in an hour or so. We're using sticks to beat the thistle down and making a little progress just for the hell of it. Staying pretty close to the woods on our side because we didn't want to go straight into the middle of the thistles. Should probably head back because it's getting late. Do so. Instead of going back the way we came we take the shorter route of going into the woods along our side, then heading back to his house. Reach one of his wider quad trails. Follow this trail back to house. We're walking along and we keep hearing rustling behind us. Don't think much of it, but it keeps happening and we start getting nervous. Sun has started to set, and it's that time of day where it's still light out but everything is shadows. Rustling behind us persists. Friend turns around. I hear him say, "Dude." I turn around. Standing in the middle of the trail is a large bipedal thing. About 10 yards away from us. Everything is shadowed because it's dusk. All I can make out from it was that it was tall and it had very thick limbs. I've always been fairly tall, 23 now and 6'1", not sure how tall I was at that age. The top of my head came up to where its nipple would be, so it had a good 3 feet on me. It just stands there. I kinda yell, cry out some incoherent yell, brought on by fear. Notice friend has already started running. I turn and do the same. Booking it as fast as I can. Look over shoulder. It isn't as close as it was at first, but it's definitely following us. Getting darker and darker outside. Yell something like, "It's still here." Friend and I just keep running. Check over shoulder a few more times. It's still there following us, but each time it's slightly farther away. Eventually reach his yard. And it's dark by now. His motion detector lights on his house turn on. We run inside his back door and lock it. Still freaking out. Catch our breath. Decide to be big bad tough guys and go back with real guns. I have his 20 gauge and he has his dad's 12 gauge. Go back into woods with lanterns strapped to our belt, headlamps on our heads, and mag lights in a backpack. Find nothing. It's dry out and pine needles are covering everything, and we don't even find prints. Go home. Don't really talk about it ever again. I haven't spoken to him in 6 or 7 years, but even before that happened he always talked about sometimes the woods by his house made him feel weird. I live on a tiny island in Washington state. A bear would have had to travel 130 miles from the mountains to the coast and then swim 10 miles across the ocean. This is why it was so scary for me. It was not a bear. I live on the mainland now and I frequently go in a woods and in a mountains and camping and whatever, and if this would have happened again I still would have shit my pants, but I would know it was a bear because we have bears in the mountains. But, back home, the biggest wild animal we have are black-tailed deer. There are no bear and there are no big cats. So unless there's an Andre the Giant-sized guy in a gorilla suit goofing off in the middle of the woods, then I don't know what it was. Camping with friends. Walking along this path with my friend talking loudly. She asks me, "Oh crap, Meg, did you bring that extra sleeping bag for me?" "Yeah, I got it, we're good." We keep walking. Getting pretty far away from camp. Suddenly from the brush cross the stream that our path paralleled. Bet, did ye, bring da etra. AP Berg Fumi. It was so inhuman, sounding like an animal almost. It repeats several times. Each time it sounds more and more like my friend. We are terrified. We start running back. Hear leaves moving behind us. Too afraid to look. From behind us in a low whimper. "Wait, I'm hurt." Sounds just like me. I'm crying. We keep running. As we get closer to the opening into the field we were camping in, the bushes are thicker. We're not real fit and we had been running pretty hard. Gasping for air. Directly from the right of us. Tired yet. Sounds like her again with almost a bark. Shaking so hard at this point. I turn and look back. See this massive mound of fur in the bushes, turn and go back the way we came from. Get to camp and tell our friends what happened. They of course don't believe us. We refuse to stay there that night. Get in her car and drive to town and sleep in a cheap motel. About 10 p.m. her phone rings. Friends at the camp. Jesus, will you guys give it up? It's been 2 hours, you're not scaring us, just keeping us from sleeping. Friend gets hysterical, telling them to leave. They are convinced we drove back there and are in the woods yelling that we're hurt and for them to come help us. I turn up the motel TV and let them hear that we're in town. They hang up immediately and drive to our motel and spend the rest of the night. Next day we go back for our shit and never go camping again. Haven't seen an In a Woods creepypasta thread in a while. Starting off with one that's related to some shit that went down at work today. Now have a job, working in the US Forest Service in Oregon. Be out today, basically getting to know the lay of the land. Out looking for a spring that didn't get put on any of the newer maps because no one wanted to go survey the fucker and rebuild the spring box in the 80s. With 3 others. We've driven up what is more or less a cow trail, marked as a road on the map. Also the older maps show the spring at the end of the road, as far as the 4 can take us. Now hiking up what is now classified as a deer trail. Reach an old landing from a logging operation a few years ago. I step off behind a tree to go take a piss. Other 3 go on without me. Can hear them for a while, then fucking silence except for birds. Well, fuck. Start hiking up the trail, figure they can't be too far ahead of me. Find split in the trail, start up the more well-worn path figuring they'd gone that way. Can now hear knocking, kinda like someone tapping a wooden cowbell. Stop and look around, it's slow and methodical, kinda calming. Can still hear the birds, figure it's 2 deer fighting or something. Keep going down this trail, knocking still happening, birds still chirping. Then all of a sudden silence, wind dies and the rain comes to a complete stop. The knocking is rather rapid. Clouds cover up the sun, and this area of the forest just gets spooky dark and something just feels wrong. Take a couple steps forward, knocking picks up tempo and is as fast as a wicked drum solo. I back off, and away warily looking around back to the old landing. Knocking has returned to its calmer, slower tapping. Birds chirp, rain falls, wind picks up. Can hear the other foresters again coming back. Apparently the springs were along the deer trail and not the cow trail I'd gone down. Also a lot further than expected. Ask if anyone else had heard the knocking. No one else heard shit. Someone blames a woodpecker. Shrug and accept that. Didn't sound right for a woodpecker. Check the old map from the 50s that was leading us. Sunk Mine Springs. Call it what you will, not sure the fuck it was, might have been a Tommy knocker or a trick of the wind. Still something was wrong with that cow trail. Used to live in Alabama. Here's the only true copy pasta I ever wrote. Be driving on I-85 late at night. Get near the exit to the Kekke plant. There are 2 small dogs right by the exit. One is laying down like he's injured. The other one is standing nearby, making eye contact and looking worried. It's like he wants someone to stop and help his friend. Missed the Kekke plant exit, but feel bad for the little guys. Get off on the next exit and turn around. Get off at the Kekke exit. Drive across the overpass, dogs are gone. Figure they must have wandered away from the highway. Drive slowly around the nearby area. Across from the factory at this point. It's pitch black. No street lamps. Suddenly my headlights shine on a pug standing defiantly in the middle of the street. He locks eyes with me. I look around. The 2 fuckers from the exit are coming out of some bushes. I look the other way. More tiny dogs coming out of the trees. I'm literally surrounded by a pack of toy breeds. They look like they mean business. Not today, fuckers. Nope the fuck out of there and continue home. The little sons of bitches actually chased me down as I drove off. It was one of the most surreal and unfathomable moments of my life. A pack of toy breed dogs led by a fucking boogly-eyed pug setting an ambush for a fucking car. In college, living in dorms. Huge building. Be chillin' in one of the lounges one night. The building is basically empty because Friday night and everyone's clubbing or some gay shit. Friend points out janitorial closet has been left open. Always wondered what's in there. Jump up and tread inside. There's plywood everywhere, very small room with nothing else but a ladder leading up to this crevice. Climb up because why not? Leads to what looks like a blown out hole in the wall. Peer inside, looks like a very short attic that goes across the entire building. Hey bro, come check this out. Climb inside to allow friend to see. Insulation all over the place, tons of random wooden beams. The end is not even in sight, it goes as far as the light from the entrance carries. Friend is fascinated, crawls up inside with me. The fuck are you doing, man? Let's explore this place anon. It's just a crawl space, dude. There's nothing to see. Ignores me, starts crawling away into the darkness. Crawl after him, don't want him to die from asbestos or something. Start getting a little creeped out as we go into the darkness, paranoid I'm going to run into a spider web or worse. We are so far now we cannot see ourselves, only the light at the entrance. Something doesn't make sense. What's the point of this large empty attic type area if there's nothing in here? It's between floors. I don't know, man. Friend pulls out his cell phone and turns on the camera light. Rusty pipes everywhere, makes more sense now. Starts scanning the area, there's actually various different areas to explore. Suddenly hear a slam and the light from the entrance is gone. Nope. Friend covers phone light. Silence. We do not move. Hear nothing but the sound of pipes with water running through them. Wait a good minute. Friend reveals his light again and starts scanning it across the entrance. Nobody there, I guess they just closed the janitor closet door. Alright, now let's get the fuck out of here. Hold on anon, I want to check out what's behind that rubble. What rubble? Friend shines light over to something I didn't see before. A section of the crawl space that has been blocked off by pieces of plywood and clusters of insulation pushed up around it. Dude, there's literally nothing over there. I'm obviously spooked. Don't be a pussy, you pussy faggot shitlord. Friend continues to crawl towards the rubble. Have no choice, can't find my way back without a light. We reach the rubble and friend places phone on the ground with the light up. He just kind of pushes shit aside easily. Crawl inside. Turn another fucking corner. What the fuck? Dude, what? I side crawl so I can see what friend sees. I shit you not, fucking bottles of piss everywhere. Holes in the ceiling in various spots. Light beams shining up through them. In the corner is a black sleeping bag. Friend slowly crawls into the area. We look down each hole. Each one is a different view of female rooms or bathrooms. Nope. Points light in the other corner. Oh fuck no. Another identical sleeping bag, zipped entirely up. Could have very well been a dead body. Shovel propped up against the wall. Rope piled next to it. Friend starts backing up in shock. We start panicking. Rust on walls and floor, maybe blood, we don't know. Friend knocks over bottle of piss. Fuck. That voice was not my friend. Came from the direction of the entrance. Friend is literally freaking out. Have no idea what to do. Use adrenaline Hulk strength to kick at one of the larger holes. Friend joins in. Not working fast enough. Hear someone scrambling in the crawl space getting closer. I grab shovel. Friend snatches it and starts beating the shit out of the floor. Luckily part of it is plywood, of course. We literally jump into this chick's shower. Bathing shit falling everywhere. Maybe broken foot. Piss leaking from ceiling. We start yelling for help. Feminon from the dorm starts shitting herself. Feminon runs out into the hall screaming. I follow running on possibly broken foot. I look for friend. He was staring up at the hole but runs out with us. Find hall master or whatever the fuck, and he's already calling the campus police. They scour the building. They never fucking find the guy. All of the janitors become suspect of invasion of privacy shit and illegally living in building. Friend and I spend the rest of the night with police filling out shit. Friend literally develops PTSD, LOL. While talking to the police he describes what he saw while looking up at the hole. Supposedly a white guy that looked like he was on meth stuck his head out and said, "This is the gayest fucking thread I've ever seen in my life."